We're here with Dr. Braxton Hunter, president of Trinity Seminary. Dr. Braxton, your recent debate with Matt Dillahunty, what are your thoughts on that overall? How do you think it went? You think it went smoothly? You think the audience benefited from this? You think this is something we should do more often? What are your thoughts?
I certainly think we should do these sorts of things more often. I tell people regularly that there's something about a debate where you get to hear from both sides. You not only hear what your guy's going to say, but you also hear what the opponent's going to say, and then what your guy says in response, so you can really learn a lot in a very short period of time with a debate. As for this debate, Matt was nothing but a gentleman before and after the debate, and during the debate, I have to say he was very approachable. I think the audience noticed that he was very disarming and not at all aggressive. Unfortunately, in this debate, the topic was, does the Christian God exist? And I brought two arguments for God's existence and a resurrection case. He never substantively dealt with the resurrection arguments that I brought. And in a debate on does the Christian God exist, that amounts to a tacit concession of the debate.
Why don't you explain what that means? What do you mean by tacit
concession?
concession?
A tacit concession in a debate is not when we say someone conceded, typically what we think they mean is someone saying, okay, well, you're right. And that would be to concede. But a tacit concession doesn't mean that the person actually thinks they're wrong or that you're right. What it means is they might as well have conceded for the purposes of the debate because they didn't address substantially what you brought. And so that amounts to what's called a tacit concession. In a debate, if you tacitly concede, especially something as big as the resurrection, when we're talking about, does the Christian God exist? I frankly think that as much as I like Matt, he's a nice guy and I enjoyed all of that, that is damning for the position if you tacitly concede the resurrection.
So you're saying part two is just going to be resurrection alone, right? So
We'll see.
Yeah. So after the debate, y'all seem to still shake hands and talk to each other. Why do you think that is? I mean, you obviously have almost like polar opposite views. Y'all were disagreeing, going back and forth, and it was great, entertaining. It was thought-provoking, but yet y'all are able to chat afterwards. I mean, how's that?
Well, Eric, you're a debater, so you know this. But the fact is, when we as Christians end up having these kind of dialogues, even not on a debate stage, but just one-on-one where we work or whatever, we want to make sure that we're not attacking the person, but we're pointing out what's wrong with the position. And I really tried to do that. There were a couple of times where I had to say something about how Matt views evidence and things like that. And so I had to say something about him that way. But ultimately, we want to talk about the position. And if you talk about the position, and if he talks about my position, then there's no ad hominem, which means you're not attacking the person. And so afterwards, you can still be friends. And I don't know if Matt would consider me a friend, but the first thing I said to him when I shook his hand afterwards was, listen, it's important to me to know that I wasn't too aggressive, didn't say anything offensive, or wasn't too harsh. I said, is that true? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. We ought to do something like this again sometime. So I think we were successful in making the point strongly for Christianity and also being kind and gentle and all those things. Everything 1 Peter 3:15 says, my hope is that that's what people take away from this debate.
Yeah, I think they certainly will. So this is something I asked Matt. I'm curious to your thoughts. What do you think we can do, at least on our side, or just overall, to get Christians and non-believers to have better, more fruitful conversations and dialogues?
Well, as you know, in the great book with William Lane Craig and J.P. Moreland, Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview, in the introduction, they begin talking about how with all the Christians that we have, even if you wanted to boil that down to people that are actually living their lives as though they believe these things are true, with that many people, if those people had just a minimum level of knowledge of the evidence for Christianity, then we should already be seeing an incredible revival in this nation. And I believe that's true. How to get people to have those conversations is tricky in this day and age. I try to do it through Christian fiction that I write that includes apologetics. Some people do it through songwriting. There's also the straightforward presentation of evidence in a book or something, or a debate. But I think that there's something in apologetics for anyone. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are. There's so many aspects to this. And I think we should not just look at it as something that we have to do. And I do think we should feel an obligation to fulfill 1 Peter 3:15, but also something that's exciting and to find out where your niche in this is. So if you're a young person, an older person, a man or a woman, there is something here that you can latch onto. And if it's only the resurrection of Jesus, only the resurrection of Jesus, the fact is that every Christian should know more about that if they can, and that's a great place to start.
So it sounds like you're saying it's not like we have to know the answers to everything, but find what you're interested in and pursue that. Do you know of any Bible colleges that they could maybe go to or anything like that? Or?
There's this one called Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary.
Oh, yeah.
I happen to know their president. He's a gorgeous, bald-headed, bearded man.
Oh, right.
And so I would encourage people to visit us there at trinitysem.edu. And that's even if they don't want to be a professional minister, but they're just a person that sits in the pews, wants to serve in their church, and they could learn apologetics. They could learn every methodology, all the different ways that we go about this, and they could learn some of those things from me. So I would encourage people to check us out there.
Awesome. So what would you say to someone who maybe a Christian might give a little pushback, and you can't argue anyone into the kingdom, or, well, what's the point of these debates? Are you trying to show how smart you are? Or maybe they're someone who might say, we probably really shouldn't go there. What would you respond to something like that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things going on there. If the criticism is, I think you guys are just trying to seem like you're smart, you're arrogant about your intelligence and all that sort of thing, unfortunately, yeah, that can happen. There are temptations, and whenever you do learn a certain amount of data and you know it really well and you're good at presenting it in a persuasive way in front of an atheist, of course, there's a part of you that is tempted to be proud about that. What I tell people that would criticize that is to say, yeah, we do try to minimize the importance of self. However, there's two kinds of pride. There's good pride and bad pride. Bad pride is when you're proud of you and something you did on your own. Good pride is when you're proud of something God did for you or through you. And so I think it's okay to have that kind of pride. Now, as far as someone who just says, well, the evidence, I don't think we ought to be trying to give evidence for the Christian faith. And you could say to that person, why is that the case? And then they'll start defending it and say, so you're giving a defense of why you shouldn't give a defense.
Right,
is that right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, everyone believes on the basis of something. Even if someone just believes on the basis of they were raised that way, or the Bible tells me so, or that's just what I've always thought. You're still basing it on something. Now, I may not think that what you're basing it on is good enough, and it wouldn't stand up, but you're still basing it on something. And if you're basing it on something, why not base it on the best stuff that we have?
So let's say you'd have maybe a pastor or someone at a local church who's maybe considering putting their leaders together or having an unapologetic conference come to their church. Would you recommend something like that?
Absolutely. Listen, I've been to multiple unapologetics conferences, both as a keynote speaker, a breakout guy, and now as a debater. And I can tell you from talking to people of every age who attend these conferences that it is a blessing to the local church. Not only is it a blessing to the local church, after the last conference that we had just a few months ago that I was a part of, what happened was a middle-aged lady. Now, a middle-aged lady, frankly, by the way, is the kind of person that some people think would never have any interest in Christian apologetics. Women just seem to have this gift of faith, where they don't seem to feel like they need apologetics. She contacted our school and she said, put me in an apologetics program because that Braxton Hunter rocked my world for apologetics. Okay, so the Unapologetics Conference is getting people of every age excited about apologetics. And if William Lane Craig and J.P. Moreland, two of the people on the front lines of Christian apologetics today, say that if every Christian knew some simple apologetics principles, we could see a revival in America like never before. Well, then the best thing you can do right now is to host an apologetics conference or attend one in your area so that we can make sure that we're doing our part to see that revival happen.
I find you a great resource for people to just kind of, I can point people to, and you've just got a wealth of knowledge, and your heart's in the right place, which is really hard to find to get those two combinations. Where can people find or learn more about you and what you do? Yeah,
okay. So again, our school is trinitysem.edu. My personal website is braxtonhunter.com, and so you can go there. There's everything that's kind of the nexus for it all. But really, what would help me out more than anything else is check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/BraxtonHunter.